Welcome to the Open Heritage training program. In this current session, we will look at the territorial impact aspects of adoptive heritage reuse. Our training program is part of the Open Heritage project, which is funded by the European Union's Horizon 2020 funding scheme. And yeah, without further ado, I would get into understanding what territorial impact means in the context of adoptive heritage reuse. Um, so we will cover the following brief questions through kind of looking at case studies that were developed during the Open Heritage project, and we will focus on what the territorial impact of a adoptive heritage reuse project is, and how it can apply to heritage reuse. We will look at how we can assess territorial impact of a project, and how we can promote positive territorial change through these initiatives. And we basically, I will focus on a case study that was done by our organization during the Open Heritage project, and it looks in depth into one of the cases in Budapest, and looks at the kind of territorial impacts that this initiative had. And I will give you a very brief overview of the case, and then we'll go a bit further in detail. So this Jewish district in Budapest is one of the inner districts of the city, and it's recognized as a World Heritage Site, especially the inner part of the district. So the one that you can see the district is highlighted with blue, and there's a kind of an area which is highlighted with these stripes, and that's basically the Jewish district within Budapest, and it's also covered or kind of overlapping this UNESCO World Heritage Site. And the Jewish district has been revitalized since the early 2000s. So it's been going on for a couple of decades now. And it was turned into a cultural and hospitality district or place where or it's often referred to as the Ruin Bar district, and which became very popular both among locals and among tourists. And it kind of during the 2010s, it grew kind of not from one day to another, but like gradually it grew into a mass phenomenon, and it kind of also brought about negative social or territorial impacts as over tourism, gentrification, etc. But in the kind of the central focus of this territorial development of this district in Budapest is actually one bar. It's called Simpla Kert, which kind of was the catalyst of this change going down in the area. And it's basically a bar and a concert venue, but it's more than that. It's kind of a community which holds workshops, markets. So it's kind of a community space for a multitude of different purposes. And I will go in more detail now, especially kind of showing you the timeline of how the development of this Jewish district started off, recent development. But we kind of look at the history of the area as well a bit. So the early 19th century was when this Jewish district started its formation, and the Kazinci Street 14, which is Simplakert today, this ruin bar, um, was was built in 1841, as most of this area was built around that time, and it was kind of during the Second World War. It became the ghetto within the city, so it was. Jews were kind of segregated in this part of town, and it many of its buildings were either partly destroyed or kind of ruined during the process of the World War. Um, and by the early 1990s, or by the 1990s, um, this area of Budapest was kind of ran down, even though it's a central district. It was not in a good shape, and some heritage activist work started kind of in the late 90s. Um, and in 2001, the first ruin pubs opened, which one was Simpla Kávézó, which is called Simpla Cafe, um, which was the first kind of precursor for actually Simpla Kert. It was done by the same group of people. And in 2004, Simpla Kert opened in its original place, or in its not in its original, in its current location in 14 Kazinci Street. Um, and it started off this chain of events that led eventually to the kind of the revitalization, and then the kind of the huge popularity of this area. Um, and the Jewish district became protected by Hungarian law in 2004 and 2005. Um, and also, which is important, and I'll talk about this in the kind of the negative aspects, is that in after 2010 onwards, there was a boom in tourism and in kind of Airbnb type letting of accommodation there, which kind of brought about also, apart from positive territorial change, also some kind of negative aspects. But looking a bit more specifically at the case of Simpla and its role in changing the area or changing the district, uh, we'll take a slightly closer look into this the development of this small ruin bar, which, as I said, was established in 2001 and has been working in the same location since 2004 in Kazinci Street. And it has been very popular and famous from the start. So ever since it moved to its current location, but in 2012, Lonely Planet website hosted it or listed it as one of the world's best bars, which gave it kind of its first kind of major recognition. But it also kind of started simpler, and this area started to become extremely well known and extremely popular among tourists. And this also brought around tensions between local communities and ruin bars, because throughout the years, and that's one of the kind of main more direct impacts of Simpla, is that um, this model that they started pursuing, kind of being during the day being a kind of more community-centered venue, and then in the evenings being a kind of a bar and a concert venue or art venue, um, became quite a successful and quite a well-known trait of Budapest. So many ruin bars, as such, were popping up, mostly in this area, but also in other areas of Budapest. And Simpla kind of became a role model for this kind of cultural and hospitality units or innovators, and they made an effort to make this model kind of an open source model. So they were organizing free courses, etc., on how to build your own ruin bars, and this kind of eventually led to the district becoming, known known about other things as well. For example, being the Jewish heritage, number one Jewish heritage site in Budapest, but also becoming this ruin bar district in the area, with all its positive economic and social impacts, but also with some of the negative effects that I also talked about earlier. And before finishing, I would just like to very briefly touch upon kind of an analysis that some of our colleagues from Roma Tre University have developed, which was also part of the Open Heritage Project. Look at some of the case studies that were developed by us and other organizations, and made kind of a more in-depth analysis of the impacts of the territorial impacts of those projects. And you can see in this kind of matrix kind of four cubes, and they represent, on the left, they represent kind of opportunities and threats, but on kind of an external, as external factors. And then on the top you can see strengths and weaknesses, but internal factors, so kind of given by circumstance of the district, and given by some of the basic conditions of the district. And they basically looked at these aspects, and found that related to Simpla, found that Simpla, as when internal and external strength and opportunities came together, Simpla could become this driving force of cultural and civic revitalization of the area. When this kind of internal strength met with external threats or external conditions, that's where Roma Tre colleagues placed the kind of over tourism and overcrowding of this area. So that's one kind of negative outcome. And then kind of weaknesses built or based on internal factors, and opportunities given by external factors, brought about the question of local governance or the local municipality, which for a long time was not very, it didn't really accommodate the change that went on in this area. It didn't push for dialogue between local businesses, NGOs, and it wasn't a cooperative good relationship between the municipality. And then in 2019 there was a change in local administration, which kind of gave a hope that some of the issues deriving from from the administration not understanding local needs of both businesses and residents. Uh, there was a hope that it would change, and but kind of so far, and let's hope that it will change somewhat in the future. But so far, and this brings us to our weaknesses in internal factors and threats in external factors. So far, unfortunately, uh, the relationship hasn't developed that much, or new policies accommodating the special circumstances or special needs of this area were not met. An important change within this area occurred with the COVID-19 pandemic, because as everywhere else in the world, it kind of it brought a very sudden and quite severe decline in tourism. So some of the impacts, negative impacts, derived from that are not so apparent right now, but it also, the positive sides, or the economic activity, economic strength sides also were not being able to, not experienced due to the huge decline in tourism in recent years. So I would like to thank you for joining us for this current session of the Open Heritage Training. And please, if you enjoyed and found our presentation useful, then come and consult some of the other training materials that we have on the topic